Well, hello there. I'm Ashanti, your reading friend, and we are reading I Am Helen Keller by Brad Meltzer, illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. And this is a Xavier Riddle inspired series. Helen Keller is a household name, just like a lot of celebrities and famous people and activists that we know of. She had a very challenging life, and I want to share this story with you because it should inspire you to embrace your challenges and overcome them and be joyful throughout the entire process. Because although there are struggles in life, the most beautiful part of life is we have the opportunity every day to live it until our last breath. So take this story in. It's quite an emotional one, and yeah. Whew. I'm preparing my mind to read this story without crying because it gets me every time. I Am Helen Keller by Brad Meltzer, illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. I am Helen Keller, who's outside just like us, or me. When I was little, I was just like you. I loved to play, I loved my dog, and I loved seeing all the bright, beautiful flowers. I also loved copying people. At 6 months old, I could already say all these things. If you check this book out at your local library, you can read the speech bubbles and share this story with your friends and family. On the day I turned 1, I started walking. Oh, and there was another word I loved. Just like any other kid, right? But there's one thing that made me different. When I was 19 months old, I got very sick. The doctor said I wouldn't live. I did live, but the sickness made me blind and deaf. This is how I see the world. Close your eyes and block your ears. I couldn't see anything or hear anything. That's right, nothing. I know it seems scary. It was scary for me too. Back then, people didn't know how to deal with someone who was deaf and blind. My relatives thought I was a monster. They were right. I wasn't well behaved. I was extremely frustrated. In my dark world, I couldn't tell if anyone noticed me or cared about me. I couldn't see or hear what I was doing. But by the time I was 5, I figured out small ways to communicate. To say yes, I nodded my head. To say no, I shook it from side to side. To say father, I motioned to put on his glasses. For mother, I rested my hand on my face. For baby sister, I did this. And when I shivered like I was cold, it really meant Helen wants ice cream. But even those signs, I couldn't get my dog Belle to play with me. I didn't know how to speak, so I couldn't tell her. I just wanted to play with my dog. The saddest part was, I got used to a dark and silent world. People told my parents to give up on me, that I'd never be good at anything. They didn't listen though. After reading about another blind and deaf girl, my parents found something they hadn't had since I'd gotten sick. Hope. We all do. Everyone needs a teacher. Still, I had no idea what the world was about to bring me. I never had a more important day. I was 6 years old. From the way my mother was hurrying, I knew something big was coming. I stood on the porch waiting, feeling the sun on my face. Someone approached. I could feel footsteps. I reached out, thinking it was my mother. She pulled me into her arms. Her name was Sullivan. She's the teacher who changed my life. In one of her first lessons, she gave me a toy doll. After letting me play with it, she spelled the word doll into the palm of my hand. I could feel them, but I didn't know what letters or words were, or how they worked. It didn't stop Miss Sullivan one day. One day, we were arguing as she was trying to teach me the words mug and water. I got so upset, I took my new doll and smashed it on the ground. I got angry a lot back then. It was so hard for me. I was frustrated. Never losing her patience, my teacher took me outside. At a nearby spout, she put my hand under the running water. In my other hand, she spelled the word W-A-T-E-R. Then she spelled it again and again, 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 and she understood. I understood. From there, I realized that everything had a name. Every object I touched seemed to burst to life. And now when I wrote words in my teacher's hands, I had someone who could understand me. When you're learning something new, it's often hard. I started with words. My vocabulary grew very fast. Eventually, I learned the meaning of the word love. I'd given my teacher some flowers, so she spelled into my hand. "It is here," she spelled, while tapping at my heart. I was still confused. It was hard to understand something I couldn't touch. It made no sense. Why couldn't my teacher show me love? But then she explained why. There, in that moment, my whole world changed. It was as if there were invisible lines that stretched between me and everyone else in my life. Close your eyes. You can feel it too. Your connection to your family and friends. Still, life was never easy. Without sight, I couldn't see people's faces. Without sound, I couldn't hear their voices. But one of my greatest breakthroughs came when I learned to do what you're doing right now, reading. To practice, I match each word with its object and make sentences. This was my favorite game. We played it for hours. See if you can find the sentence. Girl is in wardrobe. From there, I started reading real books, just like you. The only difference was my books were in Braille, which is a series of raised dots that you read with your fingers. Go ahead and try it. Move your pointer finger over the dots below. At first, it just feels bumpy, right? You'll get used to it. These dots spell my name, Helen. Want to read your name in Braille? Here's the alphabet. Run your pointer fingers over the letters. Now close your eyes. There you go. When you're reading, now you're reading just like me. To make reading even more fun, my teacher took me outside. She knew I loved feeling the sun on my face and smelling the pine needles. I read my book so many times I wore down the raised dots. There were the Arabian Nights, Robinson Crusoe, and one of my favorites, Little Woman. In those pages, I met brave boys and girls who could hear and see. One of Miss Sullivan's best lessons came when she showed me how plants grow. When I was 9 years old, I wanted to learn how to speak. Even Miss Sullivan was worried about teaching me. She thought I'd get frustrated, but nothing would stop me. To help me, Miss Sullivan took me to a teacher named Sarah Fuller, who would put my hand to her face and let me feel her tongue and lips as she made each sound. In an hour, I learned the letters M, P, A, S, T, and I. Now I could call my dog and she'd come to me. At my 7th lesson, I spoke this sentence, the one sentence that I'd repeat over and over. As I got older, I didn't just learn to speak English, I learned French and German. For college, I wanted to go to Radcliffe at Harvard University. At Harvard, most of my books weren't available in Braille, so Miss Sullivan spelled out many of the textbooks in my hand. That's how much I loved learning. That's how patient and selfless Miss Sullivan was. I became the first deaf and blind person to earn a college degree. I wouldn't be the last. As I grew older, I wrote 14 books and visited 39 countries. But the most important thing I did was to make sure that other people with disabilities could get the same education I had. That was only the beginning. I didn't just help the deaf and blind. I started fighting for social change, to help women vote, to help the poor survive, and to help people who needed it most. Today, the American Foundation for the Blind and Helen Keller International continue to help the blind and hungry. In my life, they said I was different. They said I'd never be normal. But the truth is, there's no such thing as a normal life. Every one of us is like a flower that must be watered. Every one of us is full of potential, and every one of us can overcome obstacles. Look at me. Hear my words. I may not be able to see, but I have vision. I may not be able to hear, but I have a voice. Think of your life as a hill that must be climbed. There's no correct path to get to the top. We all zigzag in our own ways. At some point you'll slip, you'll fall, you'll tumble back down again. But if you get back up and keep climbing, I promise you, you will reach the top. Don't let anything hold you back. Our lives are what we make of them. There will always be obstacles, but there will always be ways around them. I am Helen Keller, and I won't let anything stop me. Helen Keller's quote is, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched, but just felt in the heart." And if you check out this book, not only can you read the speech bubbles, but you can get a timeline of Helen Keller's life and all that she accomplished. And I'm sure there's things in life that she accomplished that may never appear on a public timeline. That's some of the greatest things about what we do day to day, is it fuels a big mission. But if we don't collect those good days and those good moments and memories, then they don't really create much big imagination, big experiences. They don't grow into something that could be amazing and beautiful. So as hard as some things may seem to practice day in and day out and complete over and over and over again until you become proficient at it, sometimes you just gotta go through the struggle and enjoy those parts, because that's what paints those beautiful pictures, what gives us individuals like Helen Keller. Now imagine if Miss Helen Keller never continued to learn how to read and never continued to learn how to speak. If she fell into her disabilities and never allowed them to be capabilities that she was blessed with from God. Sometimes things that look and appear and feel like they are struggles and trials are really our greatest gifts, and you can turn them into something beautiful. So that's all I have for you, friends, today. Remember, please check this book out at your local library. I'll catch you next time. Bye. We truly enjoy sharing our adventures with you here at Ivy's Fortress. If you do too, like our videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, what are you doing? It is your choice, but we'll race you there. Bye.